Hello world, my name is Ihor and today I have this little tiny modular setup here, and building this kind of tiny setups has really become my hobby. I really enjoy doing it, and for me it's like solving a puzzle, but instead of a limited or a certain amount of pieces to put together, I have a little bit more than that, and I need to make choices to put them into a tiny case. And I have to make really considerable and meaningful choices because I'm limited in space, but still I need all kinds of different functions like power. Well, in this case, power is provided by the case itself, but in some other cases it may apply. So still power, sequencers, voices, filters, effects, utilities, sound cards and stuff like that, etc. Also, I take some time to really think about where to put each of the modules and how the patching cables will be so that I do not really overlap too much and the controls are still accessible. And today's puzzle is a techno machine in this little pallet case, which is like 62 HP with just 7 modules in it. And the first one is Queen of Pentacles from Endorphins. This is an amazing module. This is a fully functioning drum machine, and I think if you just put it into a tiny little case, it can be enough to make some beats and some really nice music. But yeah, I have a little bit more than that. So basically this one is a drum machine, 3 analog voices, kick drum, snare drum, and clap, and then 4 tracks with samples that you can load on the SD card with a different bunks. And I didn't load any samples, I'm just using the factory presets that come with the Queen of Pentacles. So the samples are 4 tracks, they combined into 2 groups. Basically, sample 1 and sample 2, they share one voice, and sample 3 and sample 4, they share another voice. And since they share one voice, like sample 1 and sample 2, the sample 2 can choke the first one, and pretty much similar for the third and fourth. Which means that it's quite cool for hi-hats and also for all kinds of different reasons. So it also has a filter, it has effects, and it has the buttons to play manually this stuff. And which is quite important, this one has quite a lot of routing opportunities because you can, for example, grab the kick drum and process it separately. This is exactly what we are going to do today, and it's going to be excluded from the mix. And then you can send some of the voices into the effects unit. Some of them can bypass effects unit. This is a very flexible drum machine and a very flexible module. The next one is Ghost. This is a Swiss Army knife from Endorphins and Andrew Huan. I'm very excited to have this module actually. It's definitely my favorite one out of 2022. It has too many things to list down. It has pretty much everything. And quick disclaimer, Endorphins has sent me a number of different modules to try out and play with them, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And the next one is Ihor Versio. Actually, this is Electus Versio. And this one is going to be our rumble kind of a thing, so kick goes into it, but I'm gonna cover this later. Then the mix up, it's a mixer from Intelligil. And then we have the running order. This is a 1U module. I think Endorphins has it like as a 3U module, but now they launched the 1U version. This is a sequencer, 2-track SH101 kind of and Euclidean rhythm sequencer with repeats and also clock generator. Then we have a Steppy from Intelligil, one of my favorite gate sequencers. And then the output module, which is connected to the pallet case. And now let me break down the patch for you, because as you can see, it's already patched and kind of ready to go. So first of all, the clock. We get the clock out of running order, and then I multiply it, and then pretty much clock everything that needs to be clocked. The Electus Versio is clocked. Again, it's a delay or reverb, and it's clocked, and it needs to be clocked so that we can have a proper rumble. Then the Ghost, for the same reason, it has a delay. Since it has a delay, it needs a clock. And pretty much the same thing for the Queen of Pentacles. But also it can, if it has a clock, it can do kind of snare rolls and stuff like that. You can hold the trigger and it's gonna trigger every sample or a analog machine with a tempo, with a clock basically. And of course, the Steppy. When it comes to sequencing, I have 4 tracks of steppy utilized and 2 tracks of running order. In total makes 6 tracks, and they all routed into 6 tracks of Queen of Pentacles, and we just skipped the snare drum because I don't have the 7th track to sequence. But basically, track A goes into the kick drum on Queen of Pentacles and also gets multiplied into the trig input of the sidechain for ducking effect on the ghost. Output B, or track B, goes into the clap, track C goes into the sample 1, and I think in this bunk that I'm using today, it is a tom sound or something like that. Then track D goes into the 2nd sample here, which is a hi-hat, I believe. Then from running order, I have track number 1 going into sample 3, which is a synth sound. And then the track number 2 goes into sample number 4 of Queen of Pentacles, which is another synth sound. Okay, the next one, the audio routing. And this one is a little bit interesting because I have some interesting things going. Again, as I mentioned before, Queen of Pentacles is quite powerful when it comes to routing. So I grab the kick drum output and it goes into the Electus Versio. And when I put the cable into this output over here, it just completely removes this sound from the mixed outputs here on the Queen of Pentacles, which is exactly what we need. So it goes into Electus Versio, and we're gonna make some kind of a techno rumble with it. So it's a clock delay with a filter and with a low pass filter over here, and that's gonna be quite useful. And then goes into track number 1 of the mix-up. So this one is our kick and rumble thing. We also have the mix control here, which is gonna help us to, mix the dry kick sound together with the rumbling delay over here. Then a Queen of Pentacles is going into inputs 3, like stereo output of Queen of Pentacles goes over here into inputs 3. And then I have this volume control here that can help us with pretty much the entire mix of the rest of the drums. And then I have also this sample 3 and 4, which are synth sounds, goes into the Ghost in mono pretty much. Nothing like super complicated, it goes in Ghost. And then from Ghost, I have a stereo output because we're gonna add some filtering, delay, reverb, and stuff like that. And then it goes into track 4 on the mix-up. And on the mix-up, I don't really have the volume control for track 4, so it's basically normalized and mixed into the output. But fortunately, on the Ghost, we can control volume. And then the output from the mix-up goes into the output and in these 2 cables and into the recorder. And that's pretty much it. Very, very small build, very narrowed focus, of this build to play on the Queen of Pentacles and have some additional effects control. But also this case has quite a few limitations that I would like to talk about a little bit. First of all, there is no way to stop the sequencer for me. There is no transport controls. So sequencer and clock just goes all the time, and sometimes to stop it, I just pull the cable out and it stops the steppy. Also, there is no automatic way to reset the whole thing. But for me, that's not a big problem, to be honest. And the next thing is that there are no modulation sources, but quite a lot of modulation possibilities or opportunities. For example, the Queen of Pentacles has quite a lot of inputs for like velocities and stuff. Ghost has quite a lot of opportunities, and also the Electus. But we have what we have. However, Electus has the LFO, but this one is internal. I cannot really route it and use it, but I can modulate itself. And that made me think, actually, that I could iterate on this patch with the 104 HP case. Let me know if you're interested in that. And the next thing is mixing. Basically, I have this mixer here, but also I have this volume here for track 4 of the Ghost, so it's a little bit separated. There are no panning stuff, there is no like end-of-chain compressor. That's kind of a limitation, but again, like, it's a tiny little case. I think that's totally fine, and this mixer performs quite well. And with this in mind, let's get into the sounds. And I would like to start, obviously, with the kick drum and create some kind of rumble. So for the kick drum, I have track number 1. So I'm introducing the volume here on the mixer, and then on the Queen of Pentacles. make it the tail longer. What about the tuning? Yeah, like this, I think it's fine. What about the drive? Oh, I actually like it like this. So the spoiler introduces some kind of like beat reduction or something like that. Nice. So it goes into the Electus Versio, and here we can introduce a little bit of like blend, which is a mix, and then some feedback. Right? So right now it sounds nothing like Techno Rumble, obviously, but on the Electus we have a filter, which on the right is going to be a high pass filter, or to the left, it's a low pass filter. And now we have something similar to what we would like to achieve. And again, with the blend knob, which is a mix knob, we really fine tune the loudness of the rumble comparing to the dry signal of the kick drum. And now with the feedback or regen, if we go even further past 3 o'clock clockwise, we enter the territory of ducking. So basically the incoming signal is going to be ducking the affected signal, which is exactly what we need to mix them even better, right? Yeah, I think that sounds tight. Maybe some after work with compression is gonna help, but for me, that's fine so far. Now I'm gonna go into track C, and this is our kind of like tom track or percussion track. Put a couple of triggers here and there, something like this. So it keeps triggering this one, but we have to route this one somewhere, right? So I'm gonna go and enable this one because right here it's the fourth or the first sample or the fourth track is on mute right now. And we can either route it into the effects like this, and then introduce some volume. And then here we can control the decay of the sample or the pitch. I think that's gonna work like this. And then I'm gonna go into track D and introduce hi-hats. So since they are on the same track, we already have the volume in place. But for hi-hats, we can shorter the decay and play a little bit with the pitch. Maybe louder. We can also introduce some reverb. For these two samples. Nice. And now I'm gonna go into the running order and select track number 1 and program it. So track number 1, I would like to be 16 steps long, so I have to program something. So I'm gonna start with resting, like rest, and then put some, some steps here and there. So I'm gonna start like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we still have 4 to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the moment I switch it back, we have this guy being triggered. So let's also route it. We don't have to route anything because it's getting triggered into the ghost. And then in the ghost, we can already perhaps hear it, but we have to introduce some volume. Nice. And we can also control the pitch and the decay. Let's Let's make it longer. And then I'm gonna go into track 2 here and program 6-step pattern. So it's gonna be 1 step and then 5 rests. And then we enabled. Maybe we can make them a little louder. And now we can introduce some reverb on the ghost and delay. So it makes the sound wider, obviously. We can also safely utilize both of these filters because neither of them are processing the kick drum. So we can go into a bit of high pass, maybe introduce some resonance here, make it a touch brighter, maybe longer reverb. And here as well. Here actually we can use the high pass filter on the input and then it's gonna go over all these inputs. But let's add some distortion and stuff. So I'm gonna decrease the volume and significant amount of distortion. Some compression. And we can utilize filter as well with resonance as well. And then we can, on steppy, we can mute stuff. Nice. And also we can introduce finally the sidechain compression or ducking effect. There is no compression happening, but every kick drum is triggering the envelope which ducks the volume of the mixed signal over here, and that's amazing. We can also introduce the clap, which is, I believe, on track B over here. So we can mute track A and then put 2 claps here. So claps, I turn them into the left position so that they bypass the effects and they do not really get into the reverb. And this spoiler thing, it affects like all the 3 sounds here. And we can also use the snare drum like some kind of a rolling set snare. Maybe we can do it like this. Maybe some LFO modulating the rumble. And let's make it a touch louder. Nice. Let's make longer reverb. I mean, with all these limitations, I very much like the outcome. We can also mute other tracks. Not too much variation in the melodies and whatnot, but quite industrial outcome, I would say. Maybe a bit louder on the samples here. mute the kick drum, it kind of releases the ducking effect on the emitter or on the Electus, creates this like mass. But the moment we introduce it back, it keeps ducking thing. You can play with different filters here and whatnot. But also I don't want this video to become like extremely long. We can mute tracks on the running order or introduce the repeats. I think that's actually cool. We can try it. Make it even longer, the reverb, and more delay. And some more ducking amount. And then with the kick tail we can also like make a short kick. Like to control the energy a little bit, and then we are back. Yo, I very much like it. Oops. The tail I think is a little bit too long. Anyways. This is amazing. Didn't really land it properly, but at least I tried. video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope you've learned something new for yourself that you can apply to your own music production workflow, or at least got inspired to go and make music. There are a couple of ways to support me and this channel and this project. First of all, there is a Patreon. Check the link in the description and consider becoming my Patreon. We also got a Discord community going. Another way is obviously to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit this bell button to receive notifications. And also I have enabled this thanks button that you can actually like this video and say thanks with some little commission for me. Or if you're interested in the gear that I feature in my videos, you can use the affiliate links in the description as well. And if you would like to watch other Patch from Scratch videos, you can check either this one or that one. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate you, and until the next time, have fun.